Both of us during the campaign promised change in Washington. In fact, 8 times you said that negotiations on health care reform would be conducted with the C-SPAN cameras. I'm glad more than a year later that they are here. Unfortunately, this product was not produced in that fashion.
Let me just make this point, John, because we're not campaigning anymore. The election's over.
I'm reminded of that every day.
And the American people are reminded of that every day, too. We have Senator John McCAIN with us. John, thank you for being with us.
I'm glad to be with you, Fred and Jerry, and thanks for having me on again. And that certainly was an interesting exchange, and I had to treat it with humor, and I do. But, you know, the fact is he could not respond to the unsavory deals that were cut to get this bill through the Senate. And
John, it was like he was saying that the promises don't matter that we made, you and I made. The process doesn't matter. People are not interested in the process. They're only interested in doing, you know, what I want them to do. It was really kind of mind-boggling that after making this the heart of his campaign, he now dismisses it with the back of his hand.
By saying, well, the campaign is over. And I wasn't trying to talk about the campaign, but I was trying to talk about the commitments that we make in campaigns. And second of all, that, you know, in town hall meetings I have all over my state, and I know you get the same thing from your callers, they are as angry about the process as they are about the product because it's so unsavory. I mean, the sweetheart deal for pharma, the $2 million lobbyist that was quoted in the New York Times as saying a deal is a deal so that they won't compete amongst pharmaceutical companies for Medicare patients. So he reversed his position on drug reimportation from Canada and all the other, you know, the Cornhusker kickback and $100 million for a hospital in Connecticut just shows up in that 2,400-page monstrosity. So interesting. It was an interesting 7 hours, and I was proud of Lamar Alexander. I was proud of Paul Ryan. I was proud of John Kyle. Mitch McConnell handled it very well. So did Boehner. I was proud of all of our guys under the most difficult circumstances, weren't you?
Yeah, I was very, very much so. I was skeptical of the process. Everybody knows what they were trying to do there. They had a time advantage. The president, the Democrats used twice as much time as they gave to the Republicans. And even under those circumstances, I thought the president came off as kind of petty, kind of testy. I didn't like the use of first names. Mm-hmm. Even other senators, Democratic senators, referred to each other in this public setting by the appropriate names, and this was a first name kind of situation. But it was consistent with him. You talk about the backroom deals and the Cornhusker kickbacks and stuff. He's separate and apart from all that. He had nothing to do with that meeting over in the White House that gave the labor unions a $6 billion, break on the Cadillac plans. He moderates between the two sides. He's above it. He's really disassociated with it.
I think he was shocked that gambling would be going on in that establishment.
Do you think
Claude Rains?
Do you think his response to you was appropriate?
Oh, I can't make that judgment, but
I can. I can, and I did. It was totally inappropriate. This is the President of the United States. I thought that was petty. I thought it was really low class, and I thought your humor was the only way you could handle it. And I know it's Friday, and I know we're all sort of exhausted from that entire thing yesterday, but let me say, I just want to say this, Senator. I was thrilled that you brought up the process because that's all we've been talking about. Whether it's right or wrong, the process has been so egregious. It's both the process and the product that American people have been protesting all year. You know, you've been doing all those town halls, what you're fighting for right now, and you've been fighting for your whole career on this pork barrel spending. And also, it's just such a sham for him not to be able to talk about that. I mean, I was really glad that you said what you said in the way that you said it.
Well, also, Jerry, the process is what makes the product. So if you have a flawed and corrupt process, and that's not too strong a word, if you allow the pharmaceutical companies to cut deals and in behalf of that deal run over $100 million in ads supporting your position, then if the process then causes the policy. And so I thought it was very important. And with just one other comment, and I respect the President of the United States. I will always respect the presidency in his office. But when it would be difficult, the president would have something to say like the campaign is over. Or in the case of Paul Ryan, remember when he had the 2,400-page thing in front of him? He says, I see you brought a prop with you. Well, that's what we were talking about. So for Paul Ryan to bring it with him, I thought be inappropriate if he didn't.
I was kind of chuckling when you mentioned the drug company situation, because I'd add one thing. Then Obama welched on the deal. That's why the $2 million a year lobbyist was quoted in the New York Times as saying, a deal is a deal. Yeah. And then decided he wanted to spend more time on the ranch or something. But let me get to another point.
Yeah, sure.
On Medicare, oh gosh, we're coming up on another hard break
Advantage.
Here, John. Medicare Advantage. Let's talk about that a minute.
Shall I just hold and wait till?
Go ahead.
Coming up on a break.
20 seconds. Go ahead.
You want me to go ahead or?
Can you hold for a few
Sure, I'll be
minutes?
glad to hold.
Thank you.
If you spoke at all.
Well, we're just looking at some poll numbers here. The American people, if there is any doubt about it, do care about the process. That's why people are in the streets in this country in large part. But I want to talk about Medicare Advantage just a minute. The president spent a lot of time belittling Medicare Advantage, which is a program that interjected a little choice into the Medicare program. And, of course, there'd naturally be against that. So the president's in the process of running people out of that and was really running it down, and it caused you to have this exchange with him on Medicare Advantage.
Why in the world, then, would we carve out 800,000 people in Florida that would not have their Medicare Advantage cut?
I think you make a legitimate point.
Well, maybe.
I think you do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Senator John McCain, I need to reintroduce. That was great.
I think there needs to be also that our listeners have a little background on that. This Medicare Advantage program, as you said, gives seniors some choice about dental care and some eye care and things like that. And, of course, that the Democrats don't want seniors to have choices. But and so they are targeting for elimination or dramatic reduction. But so what happened in the course of the writing of this bill, again, this unsavory sausage making, Senator Nelson, the other Senator Nelson, Bill Nelson from Florida, had 800,000 seniors who were enrolled in Medicare Advantage protected, that there would be no cuts in it. Well, I went to the floor and said, wait a minute, and proposed an amendment that would remove that exemption so everybody would be treated the same. We lost the vote. On party line, and so that the carve out for these 800,000 people who live in certain counties in Florida was preserved. So when I brought it up with the president yesterday, I was a bit taken aback when he said, I thought I have a point, because the president certainly didn't object when the Democrats kept it in. Not only put it in, but kept it in.
Exactly.
And by the way, there's 330,000 enrollees in Arizona in Medicare Advantage, so they're going to get, guess what? While because of geography and buying Bill Nelson's vote, they're going to protect 800,000. I mean, it's the classic example of how unsavory this process was.
So people in Arizona, seniors there, wouldn't get a chance to avail themselves of it. They'd just get a chance to pay for the Floridians.
Exactly. And
John,
the thing is, in one of the part of the bill, there's $100 million for a hospital in Connecticut. Now, how could you possibly justify, in the name of health care reform, just setting aside $100 million for a hospital in Connecticut.
Listen, people don't worry about process. That's just process. I just campaigned on hope and change, and that's not a part of that. We're talking about other things now. But talking about the campaign, we got to get back to the campaign. The American people need to remember during the campaign, you are the only one to come up with a real solution, which had to do to change incentives.
Exactly.
In terms of deductibility and substituting for a deductibility and things of that nature. And now it's they're all trying to copy you in so many ways and claiming it's their own ideas now.
Well, as you know, the big talking point they had yesterday was we're going to insure 30 million people and you're only going to insure 3 million people. Well, as you said, we were going to replace the tax benefit for employee health benefits that they have with a $5,000 tax credit for every family in America, refundable tax credit for every family in America so that they could exercise choice and go out and get the health insurance across state lines that was best for them and their families. So we, under our proposal, we would have had everybody access to affordable and available insurance. And by the way, that's a big philosophical difference that I'm not sure Americans really appreciate. We want health insurance to be affordable and available and portable and bring costs down. But we don't want to force every American to have health insurance. And I think, Fred, that there is a real constitutional issue here.
I don't think there's any question about it. I think that there is a serious constitutional issue, but there's a serious issue with regard to health care, because you're reaching the heart of the problem here. We're not going to be able to do anything with costs by mandates from Washington. It's only when we give the American people incentives to make their own choices and get the best product and get the product that they need. Not everybody needs first dollar coverage or wants first dollar coverage. The lower the coverage rate and the lower the deductibility, the more it's going to cost. So if you want it, you ought to have it. If you don't want it, you shouldn't have to have it.
And there's one other point here. There's so much, many aspects of this issue, but going across state lines, we think that you, wherever you live, should have the ability to go to any state in America and get the insurance policy that suits you and your family best, okay? Now, they're saying, well, we want the same thing, but they want, quote, minimum standards. In other words, we know best as to what kind of health insurance that you should have. You see what I mean? It's the classic
Absolutely.
Washington versus the individual argument. The president was saying, well,
Absolutely.
suppose they went out and got a bad insurance policy. Well, I mean, we have state regulators. We do have laws against fraud. We do. I mean, it's the classic philosophical argument we got into yesterday.
They're just hoping that the American people are not smart enough to distinguish between companies and companies being solvent and companies not engaging in fraud on the one hand, and the products that they sell. I mean, you can regulate an insurance company, and should be. States do on those former things, but on the latter, it's just like you said. The Democrats are concerned that somebody might choose a policy that the Democrats don't think is right for them.
And there's one other point, and there's so much because we could spend many hours, Fred, but one other point. When the budgeting gimmick here, for the first 4 years, the taxes will increase, the benefits will be cut, but not till after 4 years does any of the benefits and subsidies kick in according to their plan. So really what you're talking about is a 10-year budget with 4 years of revenue before there is any benefit that could be accrued from it. So that's, you go out and buy a car now, you don't have to make a payment for a year. You go out and buy this policy, you can pay for 4 years before you drive it for the next 6. And look at the second 10 years of this.
It looks pretty cheap for the first few years, doesn't it?
but also,
that's what Paul Ryan was talking about.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's what Ryan was talking about, and the president tried to belittle him and so forth. But he was right, and you know, you were all right about that.
Ryan is very
thank
smart.
Thank you for standing tall. I know you don't want to relitigate every deal of the last campaign. You've been complimentary and supportive of the president when you thought he was trying to do the right thing, but you've not been afraid to stand up for instances when he goes against the very core of what you all agreed on during the campaign, and say it to his face. And I respect you for a lot of reasons, but lately I respect you for that the most.
I thank you, and Jerry, it's wonderful to chat with you again, and congratulations on all your success, which is, of
1 year. It's almost
due to
1
Jerry.
year for the show. Can you? Of course, 1 year for the Fred Thompson Show next week.
She's managed to carry me so far. I'm expecting
wonderful.
a little bit more.
That's wonderful. I thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you being with us.
Love to Jerry. Bye.